Eggs have earned a solid place in many kitchens around the world, appreciated for their versatility, taste, and nutritional value. They're often one of the first foods people learn to cook, and one of the last they give up as they age. Rich in high-quality protein, essential vitamins such as B12 and D, as well as minerals like selenium and iodine, eggs are truly one of nature's nutrient-packed gifts. But what many people don't realize, especially older adults, is that how we prepare our eggs can either enhance or diminish their health benefits. Let's consider the story of Edward, a 76-year-old retired school principal living in a quiet suburb. Every morning for decades, Edward had the same breakfast ritual. 2 eggs fried until the edges were browned and crispy, paired with toast and a cup of black coffee. It was a comforting routine that reminded him of his childhood breakfasts with his father. Edward never questioned his method. He believed he was making a wholesome choice. But over the years, he began noticing some troubling changes. He often felt sluggish in the mornings, and by late afternoon, he experienced bouts of indigestion and bloating. After ruling out more serious conditions with his doctor, Edward turned his attention to his diet. It was during a casual chat with his neighbor, a retired nurse named Clarice, that the topic of cooking methods came up. Clarice mentioned that overheating eggs might be robbing him of their benefits and possibly introducing harmful compounds into his system. Edward was skeptical at first. How could something as simple as cooking an egg too long make a difference? But curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to look into it. What he discovered was eye-opening. When eggs are cooked at high temperatures, especially when fried until browned or scrambled on high heat, the cholesterol in the yolk can oxidize. This oxidized cholesterol has been linked to increased inflammation in the body, particularly in the blood vessels. For older adults whose bodies may already be experiencing age-related inflammation, this can be a concern. Chronic inflammation is now believed to be a contributing factor in many age-related diseases, including heart disease, arthritis, and even certain cognitive issues. But it's not just about cholesterol. Eggs contain several delicate nutrients, such as lutein and zeaxanthin, 2 antioxidants that play a crucial role in maintaining eye health. These compounds are especially important for older adults who are at higher risk of conditions like macular degeneration and cataracts. When eggs are overcooked, the levels of these nutrients can be significantly reduced. Additionally, B vitamins like folate and vitamin B12, vital for energy and neurological function, can break down under prolonged heat exposure. Edward began experimenting with gentler cooking techniques. He tried soft boiling, poaching, and scrambling over low heat with a small amount of olive oil. At first, he missed the crispy texture of his usual fried eggs, but within a couple of weeks, he noticed something remarkable. His digestion improved, his energy levels were steadier, and even the mild joint discomfort he had grown used to seemed less prominent. The science supported his experience. Studies have shown that poached or soft-boiled eggs preserve nutrients more effectively than frying or hard scrambling. Cooking eggs gently not only keeps their cholesterol more stable, but also helps maintain the structural integrity of their proteins, making them easier to digest. This is particularly important for older adults, who may experience a gradual decline in digestive efficiency over time. Let's pause for a moment and consider how easy it is to overlook these details. Eggs seem so simple, a humble food, but in reality, they are sensitive to heat, and how we cook them makes a difference. Cooking an egg until it's rubbery or discolored isn't just an aesthetic issue. It's a signal that some of the beneficial compounds may have been lost or transformed into less desirable forms. One visible sign of overcooking is the gray-green ring that sometimes forms around the yolk of a hard-boiled egg. This isn't dangerous, but it's a clue that the egg has been exposed to excessive heat. This ring forms when sulfur in the egg white reacts with iron in the yolk, and it suggests that the cooking process has moved beyond the ideal temperature range. Similarly, when scrambled eggs become rubbery or emit a sulfuric smell, it's a sign that proteins have been denatured excessively, compromising both taste and nutrition. Another helpful tip for retaining nutrition is to avoid using high-heat oils or over-frying. When cooking at home, using healthy fats like olive oil or even a touch of butter over low heat can help maintain the integrity of the egg. For those who love fried eggs, sunny side up, cook gently until the whites are just set and the yolk remains soft, is a far better alternative than frying until both components are browned and brittle. And it's not just about nutrient preservation. Lower temperature cooking methods also help support better digestion. For some older individuals, hard-cooked eggs can feel heavy or lead to bloating. Soft-cooked eggs, on the other hand, are often more easily broken down by the digestive system. This can make a real difference in day-to-day comfort and nutrient absorption. Back in his kitchen, Edward embraced the change. He began adding a variety of soft-cooked egg dishes to his routine. Poached eggs on whole grain toast, soft-boiled eggs in a warm breakfast salad, and even slow-scrambled eggs with steamed spinach. Not only did these meals nourish him, but they also rekindled his enjoyment of cooking. The flavors were more delicate, the textures more pleasing, and best of all, he felt better. His story serves as a reminder. Small changes can lead to significant results, especially when it comes to nutrition in later life. Cooking eggs properly is one of those seemingly minor adjustments that can quietly support overall health. For older adults who are working to maintain their vitality, cognitive clarity, and heart health, choosing gentler cooking methods for eggs can be a simple yet meaningful step in the right direction. So, next time you crack an egg, think of Edward. And remember that how you cook it matters just as much as the egg itself. For decades, raw eggs have carried a mystique of strength and vitality. Popular culture often paints them as the secret fuel of athletes and bodybuilders, their glistening yolks sliding from glass to mouth, untouched by flame. From the iconic training scenes in movies to homemade protein shakes blended in kitchens across the world, raw eggs have long enjoyed a reputation as a shortcut to better health. But for older adults, the story isn't so simple. In fact, consuming raw eggs might be doing more harm than good. Let's turn to the experience of Diana, a 72-year-old retired librarian who had always prided herself on staying ahead of health trends. She read wellness blogs, kept a tidy kitchen filled with fresh produce, and never missed her morning walk. A few years ago, she came across an article claiming that raw eggs could offer a better source of protein and nutrients than cooked ones. It sounded plausible. Less heat meant less damage to vitamins, right? Wanting to maximize her nutrition naturally, Diana began adding raw eggs to her morning smoothies. At first, she felt no immediate changes, but over time, subtle problems crept in. She began feeling queasy after breakfast and often experienced mild stomach discomfort. On several occasions, she even skipped meals later in the day due to nausea. Though the symptoms seemed small, they gradually began affecting her mood and energy. After several months of trial and error, she consulted her physician, who gently pointed her toward the potential risks of consuming raw eggs, especially at her age. Raw eggs may seem natural, but they carry some significant concerns, particularly for seniors. The most well-known is the risk of salmonella infection, a type of bacteria that can cause foodborne illness. While many younger adults may recover from such an infection within a few days of discomfort, for older individuals whose immune systems are naturally less robust, the effects can be far more serious. Severe dehydration, prolonged gastrointestinal distress, and even hospitalization are not uncommon among seniors who contract salmonella. In Diana's case, she hadn't developed a full-blown infection, but her stomach had clearly been struggling to tolerate raw eggs, and she was not alone. Research shows that raw egg white contains iodine, a protein that binds to biotin, a B vitamin important for skin, hair, and nerve health. When eaten raw and in excess, iodine can interfere with biotin absorption, potentially leading to a deficiency over time. While it would take a consistent, high intake of raw egg whites to reach this point, seniors are more vulnerable to nutrient absorption issues, making even small hindrances worth addressing. What's more, studies have shown that cooked eggs offer superior protein absorption. While it might seem counterintuitive, lightly cooking eggs actually unfolds their protein structure, making it easier for the body to digest and utilize. One study indicated that the human body can absorb about 90% of the protein in cooked eggs, compared to only 50 to 60% from raw eggs. So the idea that raw eggs are somehow more potent is not supported by science, especially not for those trying to preserve muscle mass, bone strength, or overall vitality in later years. Once Diana stopped adding raw eggs to her smoothies and returned to more traditional, gently cooked options, her digestion improved and her morning energy returned. She found new ways to balance convenience and nutrition, like soft-boiled eggs over greens or warm scrambled eggs on a small wrap. It was a small pivot that made a big difference. Another concern with raw egg consumption in older adults is the potential impact on medication interactions. For example, seniors who take blood thinners or medications that suppress the immune system need to be extra cautious about food safety. Introducing raw or undercooked eggs into their routine can increase the risk of complications from bacteria that their bodies may be less able to fight off. Even when raw eggs come from trusted organic sources, there's no guarantee that they are free from harmful microbes. Clarice, the retired nurse from earlier, once explained it this way: when you're younger, your immune system has more margin for error. But in your 70s or 80s, you want your body to focus on healing, restoring, and maintaining, not defending itself against unnecessary threats like foodborne illness. And yet, not all hope is lost for those who love the idea of egg-enhanced shakes. There are pasteurized liquid eggs on the market, specially treated to eliminate bacteria without cooking the egg itself. These products are safer alternatives for smoothies or cold recipes. Diana discovered one at her local co-op and now enjoys her favorite protein drink with confidence, blending a banana, Greek yogurt, a splash of almond milk, and a serving of pasteurized egg whites. The difference? No nausea, no queasiness, and no risk. Pasteurization is a quiet hero in the food safety world. It involves gently heating foods to a temperature that kills harmful pathogens while preserving flavor and texture. For eggs, this process has opened up new options for those who want the flexibility of raw-like textures without the danger. Ultimately, Diana learned that what feels natural isn't always what's best, especially in the context of an aging body. Seniors often experience changes in digestion, immune response, and nutrient absorption. Foods that were once easy to handle in their 20s or 30s can become problematic later on, not because the food itself is inherently bad, but because the body's needs have shifted. She now shares her experience with friends at her weekly bridge club, encouraging them to rethink raw egg trends and lean into gentler, safer options. "It's not about giving things up," she often says with a smile. "It's about adapting to your body's wisdom." Diana's story is a gentle reminder that health choices, especially in our later years, should be informed by current science and personal experience, not just nostalgic notions or popular fads. For older adults who want to get the most out of their food, the answer isn't raw, it's wise. And sometimes wisdom means knowing when to let go of an old idea and make room for a better one. Clarence, an 80-year-old retired school principal, stood at his kitchen stove one sunny morning, humming softly as he cracked 2 eggs into his favorite nonstick pan. He'd spent his whole life believing in the power of a simple breakfast. A couple of eggs, a piece of toast, maybe a slice of tomato. He called it his foundation meal. But lately something had felt off. The eggs didn't seem to satisfy him the way they used to, and a lingering puffiness in his hands and ankles had started to worry him. It wasn't until a gentle suggestion from his daughter, who was visiting one weekend, that Clarence began to understand the hidden culprit: the seasonings he was using. Most people don't think twice about the small sprinkle of salt over their breakfast eggs or the sauces and toppings they casually reach for. But for older adults, these simple habits can silently shape their health in surprising ways. Clarence, like many in his generation, had always been generous with the salt shaker. He liked the kick it gave his scrambled eggs. And when salt wasn't enough, he'd turn to soy sauce, cheese, or even a little dab of hot sauce. They were his trusted flavor enhancers, used out of habit rather than hunger. But what Clarence didn't realize was that these additions, though small in quantity, were adding up to something significant. His blood pressure had been steadily creeping upward over the past few years, and he was already on medication for it. What he hadn't considered was how much sodium he was unknowingly consuming through everyday condiments. High sodium intake is a well-known risk factor for hypertension, kidney strain, and even cognitive decline, especially in older adults. While younger bodies can often buffer these effects, seniors like Clarence may not process salt as efficiently. Their kidneys lose some ability to filter excess sodium, leading to water retention, swelling, and added strain on the heart and blood vessels. For Clarence, that swelling in his hands and feet was his body waving a little red flag. Nutritionists often point out that a single teaspoon of salt contains over 2,300 milligrams of sodium, the recommended entire daily limit for most adults. And yet, many people reach that amount by breakfast without even realizing it. Consider this: eggs topped with a sprinkle of salt, a bit of grated cheese, and a dash of hot sauce can quickly rack up 600 to 800 milligrams of sodium or more, especially when paired with toast and salted butter. That's already a third of the daily limit before 9 a.m. Clarence's daughter, Leah, gently walked him through his usual routine. They looked at labels together: cheese, condiments, even his favorite low-calorie soy sauce. She showed him how to read sodium content and suggested some flavorful, low-salt alternatives. At first, he was skeptical. "Food has to taste good," he said with a chuckle. But Leah introduced him to fresh herbs like chives, basil, and dill, and helped him experiment with salt-free seasoning blends that brought brightness and flavor without the sodium overload. It was an adjustment, but Clarence began to notice changes. Within weeks, the puffiness in his fingers reduced. He felt more energized during his morning walks and even found that his afternoon fatigue had lessened. Most importantly, his next doctor's appointment revealed a slight but encouraging drop in blood pressure. He wasn't alone in this discovery. Many older adults fail to recognize how quickly sodium can accumulate, especially through store-bought sauces and processed toppings like bacon bits or pre-shredded cheese, which often contains added salt and anti-caking agents. These ingredients seem small, but over time they contribute to chronic low-grade inflammation, a silent factor linked to heart disease, cognitive decline, and joint discomfort. But it's not just sodium that deserves attention. Black pepper, often seen as a harmless staple, can irritate sensitive stomachs or interact with medications, and some spicy condiments, though flavorful, may trigger acid reflux in older adults whose digestive systems have grown more sensitive with age. Clarence recalled how he'd started feeling a mild burning in his chest after meals. Cutting back on hot sauce and switching to gentler herbs made a noticeable difference. There's also the concern of flavor fatigue, which many seniors experience without knowing the cause. As we age, our sense of taste can diminish, leading people to season their food more heavily to achieve the same satisfaction. It's a natural adaptation, but it can create a feedback loop. More salt, more condiments, more strain on the body. The key lies in rethinking how we create flavor. Clarence found joy in experimenting with other enhancements. A bit of lemon zest gave his eggs a refreshing twist. A few sautéed mushrooms added umami richness without the need for salt. He even learned to make a no-salt veggie salsa with chopped tomatoes, cilantro, and garlic, which quickly became his favorite egg topping. These changes not only satisfied his palate, but also gave him a sense of renewed control over his health. Another surprising benefit? His friends started noticing. At his weekly breakfast gathering with fellow retirees, Clarence began sharing his seasoning tricks. Soon, others joined in, swapping low-sodium recipes and encouraging one another to read labels and cook with more awareness. What began as a small personal shift turned into a ripple of healthier habits across the group. Clarence's story teaches us a simple but powerful truth. The way we season our food matters, especially as we age. Eggs, though nutritious and versatile, are often served with ingredients that sneak in more sodium, fats, and irritants than our bodies need. With a little mindfulness and creativity, however, it's possible to enjoy them in a way that supports health rather than hinders it. In the end, Clarence didn't stop eating eggs. He just learned to flavor them differently, more thoughtfully. He discovered that health doesn't mean giving up enjoyment. It means learning how to enjoy food in harmony with the body's changing needs. And that's a lesson worth passing down one breakfast at a time.